What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Mixed Doubles Podcast. We're your hosts, Maggie Robinson
and Smythe-Macaulay.
We're former D1 athletes and colleagues at the NFL and NBA with a passion for all things women's sports. If you're interested in more content, please follow us on Instagram at Mixed Doubles Pod. That's 1D, the mix to the double, share it. And don't forget to rate the show. Throw us a little 5 stars and follow the pod if you like what you're hearing. It goes a long way in boosting our viewership. And as always, Josh, take it away.
All opinions stated here are our own and have no affiliation with our employers whatsoever. I always laugh when I say that. I don't know why. I mean it. It has zero affiliation with them.
This is serious.
This is serious. If there's any lawyers listening, I mean it. No jokes. Not hiding anything.
Serious business.
Welcome back. This is our first regular pod in a minute. I feel like we did one to start 2025. And then jumped into our really fun, super engaging woman series where we've just been interviewing a bunch of incredible women. Very big thank you to you for everybody listening. Maggie's been doing all the hard work behind the scenes. So serious shout out. Like programming, tough, hard. Maggie's got it. Editing, also really hard. I wouldn't know because I don't do it as often or at all sometimes. Maggie's got it. So big shout out to Maggie. I know we just concluded Women's History Month. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Women's History Month.
I didn't know if it was just like Women's Month, but yes, Women's History Month just concluded. But shout out to our very own woman, Maggie Robinson.
Yeah, it's here for the women. No, thank you, Josh. That was very heartfelt and just sentimental, and I appreciate it.
And
yeah. It's our first pod in a minute where we're just chatting with you, at you, in your ears as you are doing whatever, going on a walk, washing your dishes. I don't know what you do. That's your business. But there've been some updates, I guess, since we last talked. I'm getting ready to move. I got an apartment.
Yeah, that's huge. I've seen the apartment.
It's a little studio, living by myself for the first time up in Syracuse. I'm excited. Big next steps. But
seriously, yeah. One more month at the league office.
One more month.
Isn't it disclosable?
Yes, at ye old NFL.
Ye old NFL. One more month. That's crazy. And you'll get to kind of go out with a bang at the draft.
Yeah, last event. I'm excited. The draft is always really fun. I get to like help write the player cards that get announced, like when Roger Goodell walks up there and says, and the first pick in the NFL draft. Me and my coworkers are sitting there writing like, Josh Smythe-Macaulay. And then getting him the card. So it's like a really cool job and super hands-on in the middle of everything. Honestly, you're in there with all the big stars and obviously the commissioner. So I'm excited about it. That is end of April. So watch it on ESPN. There's your plug.
Wow, good plug. Is it not ABC?
It's on ABC and ESPN. That was a great
show. Come on.
Simulcast.
Come on. Reach, viewership. We need it.
Yeah.
Buzzwords. More buzzwords, please.
More buzzwords.
No, that'll be awesome. When you guys do Shadur Sanders, are you just going to put Shadur and like expect people to know? It'll come out with the watch and all that fun stuff? Or
legendary, you know?
Yeah.
We actually, here's some insight, some behind the scenes. So to make sure that we're telling the commissioner the correct pronunciation, at Combine, we actually record all the top players pronouncing their names. And so Shadur Sanders comes up and he like is talking into the phone. He goes, Shadur Sanders. Legendary. And then he goes, oh no, I gotta redo that. And then did it normal. And we're like, dang it, we should have kept the Shadur Sanders legendary one.
I feel like Roger would get a good laugh out of that.
I think he would.
Legendary. Probably call Coach Prime at that point. Yeah. Get your kid. He's acting up. No, I feel like that's a great segue though into our very own special big plays.
And big players. Okay. I kind of went a different way this time. My big player is, let me explain this. It's called World 7 football. Football is in football, European football, soccer. Okay. So it's a small-sided women's sports league, and obviously they're playing soccer, but it's global, and there is a $5 million prize for whoever wins this tournament. And so the first games kick off in Portugal, and there's like $100 million investment from some of the co-owners of our very own NWSL Gotham FC. There's a lot of money backing this, and I just thought it was so interesting that we're seeing the rise of like Unrivaled and World 7 soccer and all these small-sided women's professional leagues like in addition to the traditional sport of like the WNBA and the NWSL and international soccer. I think it just kind of like shows how sports are trying to cater to like more diverse audiences and younger audiences. And I say younger because unfortunately everyone's attention span is being lost to the internet. And so they're like, how do we make this more fun and digestible? We shorten it. We make it way condensed and there's fewer people to look at and you don't have to look at your TV for as long. You can watch it on your phone, you know?
It's a good way to go about that. I didn't even know about this. That's actually really cool. So I didn't know that there were 7 soccer. So they just play with 7 people.
7 aside.
Great. Is that a thing? Like, did you play that growing up at all or?
I mean, you play, as you get older, you play with more and more people in the field. So you might start at like 5 aside and then move to 7 with bigger goals and then move to 11 with bigger goals. But I haven't played 7 aside. Like, I've played in practice when you're scrimmaging someone, but never at our age. It's always 11s. But I think the 7 aside is important just because it speeds up the play of the game way more. It makes it a way faster game if you have a condensed field, 15-minute halves, and 7 people on each side.
15-minute halves? Oh, yeah.
We're talking speed. They're trying to go games? The digital people on their phones. And
That'll play.
Yeah.
That'll play. That's an episode. I was going to say it's like an episode of Severance, but actually Severance is like 30 minutes longer. So
there you go. No excuse not to watch.
Yeah, I will be tapping in. I will give you my big player. It is one individual. I feel like this is a lazy choice, but I have to give her props. Juju Watkins. Obviously, if you don't know who she is, watch some women's basketball, watch some college women's hoops.
Turn on your TV, please.
Turn on your TV. I don't know. Listen to the radio, listen to a podcast, plug in, maybe. Do the opposite of touching grass. Juju Watkins was just awarded Naismith Player of the Year, which is the college women's basketball player of the year. Like, straight up, best player in college hoops. They do it for the men's and the women's side. Same name, Naismith. Juju Watkins this season averaged 24 points, 7 rebounds, was phenomenal, led USC to the Elite 8 before, unfortunately, tearing her ACL in the game before, which, I mean, devastating, just terrible thing to see, but she's had so much support around her, and she's one of those people that you just know is, like, going to attack recovery and come back hopefully stronger from this. But all of that kind of aside, she had an incredible season. She improved from her freshman campaign, which was amazing in itself. And now, as a sophomore, winning Naismith Player of the Year, joins the ranks of some amazing sophomore college women's players. I'm talking Maya Moore, Breonna Stewart, Cheryl Miller, like insane list of people that won their sophomore year. Cheryl Miller is a funny one. We were talking about it earlier, but like sophomore year, junior year, senior year, I'm thinking if Juju comes back healthy next season, it could be her.
Repeat.
So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, just super impressive. The sky's the limit for her. She's next up. Yeah, she's so fun to watch. And it was sad that we didn't get, we'll talk about it later, but the UConn-USC matchup to get to the Final Four, it was sad we didn't get that Paige Buecker's Juju Watkins matchup. But,
yeah,
you know, we move.
We move. Hopefully in the WNBA or maybe at a rival. Give it a
shot. ¿Por qué no los dos? Why not both?
Hey, why not both?
There was some other really big news in just the general sports industry. I'll call it the global sports industry if you want to give us that and that download.
Yeah. I mean, talk about capping off Women's History Month with a bang. The International Olympic Committee, so like the governing body of the Olympics, so for every country that competes in the Olympics, just named the very first female, Kirsty Coventry, as president. She is the first woman and the first African to lead the IOC ever. She is a former Olympic swimmer for Zimbabwe. And get this, she holds 7 of the 8 Olympic medals that Zimbabwe as a country has ever won. Only one other Olympic medal for Zimbabwe was won by someone other than her. So she is obviously athletically a force to be reckoned with and clearly has great business acumen and is very qualified to be in this role. I found it interesting that she was the only woman among 7 potential candidates that made the final round. I mean, I'm so glad she got this role. But again, it's like, we're still limiting women in these high spaces. Like, are you sure out of 7 people, there was not another qualified woman in the whole of the world?
The
Are
entire.
you kidding? You had the entire world to look at, and you said, here's 6 guys that look pretty up to it, and 1 girl. But anyway, I want to give her flowers. She is so deserving of this, and obviously there's a lot. This is a hard job. This is not a job that should be taken lightly. You have to look at the geopolitics of genuinely the world and all of the countries that you're working with and their governments. You have to look at sports in general. You have to look at think about the doping scandals we've seen, or human rights issues. If you're thinking about Saudi Arabia, so much goes into this, and it's a very complicated role, but just thrilled to see her step into it.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting. I think one of the other things she's going to really be instrumental on is funding just for the next decade or so. It's an 8-year term, so she'll really just kind of have this opportunity, especially where the IOC is right now in the Olympics, as they're looking at kind of the next bid process post 2032, which we know where it'll be. After that, we'll be very responsible for that bid process, and then very responsible for securing funding through partnerships, etc., as that's a big driver of the success of the Olympics and how they kind of do their business. So it'd be really interesting. I'm really excited. I saw the news, and I was reading a little bit about it beforehand, and there were some, of the men, there were 2 that were, I think, the people everybody else thought were the front runners, one of which kind of a lineage play. His dad was a former president of the IOC, although a bit scandalous. The son himself has been embedded in the IOC as far as different committees, has done different work. Everybody kind of looked at him like, oh yeah, that's maybe the most natural path. But I'm glad that they chose an unnatural route in this sense, and hopefully later on, decades on, it isn't an unnatural thing to select the one woman in contention for the role. But I digress.
I feel like the IOC shouldn't be a family business like that. This is not a place where just because your dad did it means you'll be good at it. I think that holds up in some aspects. Maybe not for this role. Not to discredit this man.
No nepotism in the IOC.
I'm just saying, maybe this is not the time for nepotism, but what do I know?
A good amount.
I don't even know how to transition into here, but I have some news from the NWSL talking about soccer. So we kind of chirped it when it came out. The NWSL club in Boston was formerly called Boss Nation. I think that's a horrific name. And I say that fully with my chest. I think it's a bad name. I think it's kind of embarrassing. It sounds juvenile and not serious for a women's sports club. It sounds like it's easy to make fun of. You never hear of an MLS club, a Major League Soccer, the men's side, called anything like that. They're not laughable. So why are we doing that with a women's team? And also, the marketing for this first name was, their marketing tagline was oh, we're in a city with so many balls, too many balls. They're making ball jokes because of all the men's professional teams in Boston. Again, read the room. Not the time to be making ball jokes when you're announcing an NWSL team coming back to Boston. The Boston Breakers were one of the formational NWSL teams before it was the NWSL. Just anyway, the whole launch of that name fully missed the mark. Everyone on the internet knew that. And they have come out with a new name, and I am so happy. It is very tame by comparison. It is Boston Legacy FC. Cool. We can work with that. Legacy ties into the Boston Breakers, ties into the legacy of having a women's soccer team here years prior. It also rolls off the tongue better. You can chant it. You can put it on a shirt. There's no ball jokes needed,
Boston Legacy rolls off the tongue. What'd you say?
I said, I'm happy about it.
I'm happy too. Boston Legacy is a much better name by a wide margin.
Yeah.
And they know that. Their leadership knows that. I sent you an article with one of the members of their leadership talking about the initial launch, and then, this new name that is, again, significantly better, if we didn't get that clear. But it was funny because the analogy that she gave for their initial launch of Boss Nation was, it was as if we were preparing for the Super Bowl and we got there and we lost 49-0, which is 100% what happened. I mean, they rolled this out and it was god awful. But
Yeah.
Boston Legacy, my fault. Boston Legacy. I'm still stuck up on Boss Nation. Boston Legacy, great name. Boss Nation, not so great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marketing lessons to be learned. Lessons for us all. Unfortunately, we had to watch them go through it to take these lessons out. But I will say, the first name, I didn't know this. In doing research, Boss Nation is an anagram of Bostonian. So they were trying to do a plan. They were just trying to get too smart with it. And I think you got to realize that, like, it's a sports team.
Yeah.
Just call it some words. Sound respectable.
Marketer of the year, Maggie Robinson. Call it some words. Bang.
Yeah.
Call it
Hire me, please.
The MO roles will just jump into basketball, jumping in because it's basketball. But the New York Liberty unveiled their renderings of a brand new practice facility that's going to be built in Greenpoint. If you don't know where Greenpoint is, it's in Brooklyn, not too far from Williamsburg. I don't really know directions super well, so I'm not going to say north, south, east, west, but it's up there.
Yep.
Aside from that, it looks amazing. It looks amazing. And they got input from the players. I mean, it was an all hands on deck effort from what it looks like. It looks amazing. I can't. I really can't. I just can't. I can't even.
So it's a waterfront facility. And
waterfront facility.
Obviously took into account players' desires and recommendations, better training facilities, and where you're going to get taped up and seeing your athletic trainer. There's childcare areas. There's a better locker room. There's just rest and everything that you're seeing in these men's facilities that is kind of standard is now being added. Thank God, finally, to women's facilities that are just now being built. Also, for so long, women were just being either stuck in the secondary part of the men's facilities or just relegated to some random place with no amenities whatsoever. So this is big time.
No, it's big. It's an $80 million investment. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, really putting their money where their mouth is. And I think the other part of this, too, is that with the new expansion teams that the WNBA has been getting, one of the priorities, I wouldn't even say priorities, one of the things that they have to have if they're bidding is at least the money and the plans to develop a standalone practice facility for this team. Or in Portland's case, a joint practice facility with the Portland Thorns, who are the NWSL team in Portland. So, I mean, there is a concerted effort to making sure that the new teams, at the very least, do have these facilities that are state-of-the-art and that are treating these women on these teams just as the men's teams would treat them with their facilities, if not better. Tangent, but I've been to the Dallas Mavericks practice facility. Ugly, gross.
Gross.
They get the job done, and it's in a decent area in Dallas. And, no discredit to Mark Cuban, but this, if you have not seen the renderings of this facility, please do yourself a favor and look it up. It's beautiful. If they open it to the public at all, I'll be there.
I was going to be in the recovery hot tub, oh, ladies.
Not even. At this point, I'm there for me. I saw people in the renderings doing yoga on the roof. I'm there. So, anyways, great facility. Now I'll transition into the Miami Open, which just concluded last week. Before I get into winners and losers and all that fun stuff, we'll just shout out the Miami Open as one of the events that I think is just blowing up. It's one of the newer WTA tournaments during the tennis season, and it looks amazing. I have to go at some point. I hope somebody can just get me there. If you're listening, you got a plug, let me know. I'll show up. But it looks like so much fun, and the stars come out. I mean, it's a massive draw, but congratulations to Ariana Sabalenka, world number 1 right now. She's been crushing it. Got her first finals win this season, 2025, after losing her 2 other final appearances earlier in the season. So huge for her. Although, for the Americans in the room, for the Americans in the chat, Jessica Pegula, representing the U.S., lost, world number 4. Unfortunate. Ariana is just, I mean, I don't want to call her a freight train, but she's running through people right now. Yeah. She looked fantastic. Beat her in straight sets. I caught highlights. I didn't get to watch it in real time, but it was super impressive. I think some of the other things to touch on from the tournament itself. A lot of upsets. I think quarterfinals, you saw Iga Swiatek lose, saw Coco Gauff get upset in round 4. So just like really uncharacteristic losses. To Coco's loss, she really hasn't looked good the last couple of tournaments she's been in. She started the 2025 season off really hot, but she's lost, I want to say, 4 of her last 5 matches on the 2025 season. So hopefully she bounces back. She'll have an opportunity for sure. Roland Garros is coming up in May. That's the next Grand Slam. But Miami Open, great tournament. Tap in.
That's the short of it. Okay. Polar opposite of Miami, we're going to women's ice hockey. The PWHL, that is the Professional Women's Hockey League. So let's talk about the top 3 in the standings right now. They're about to go on a break before they go into the playoffs. So top of the table, Montreal, Toronto, and Boston. Last year, Minnesota won the whole thing. Minnesota is not in that top 3. So someone new, most likely, is winning the PWHL this year, which is really exciting. It's their second year as a league. I kind of wanted to explain a little bit more about their system. So it's a 3-1 point system, which means you get 3 points for a normal win. You get 2 points for an overtime win or a shootout win. And you get 1 point for an OT or a shootout loss. So it's kind of a tiered system, the way that like international soccer does it, where it's like you're always getting points, but it's based on different things. So there's always standings. Montreal is obviously in first, and they're in position to go pretty deep into the playoffs, but they just lost to the New York Sirens, which is like a pretty low team on the chart this year. So their future is a little more uncertain. I think it's kind of like, it's always when the really good team loses to like the not so great team, especially at this point in the season, everyone's like, oh, do they have it in them? In my mind, having been through occasions like that, I think the Sirens had a great game and just kind of like had the one up on them. I don't think it's anything to be worried about for Montreal, but something to keep an eye out for when they pick up play at the end of April. I also wanted to highlight, they have a cool merch collab with Barbie and this brand called the Peace Collective, which a lot of their proceeds go to supporting mental health research and refugee aid. So really cool to see this upstart league collaborating with both Barbie, which as a brand is unique and very female and like, hell yeah, you know? And then also this brand that's very focused on mental health and refugee aid, like very outspoken. I just think it's a really cool partnership and something that stuck out to me as I was doing research.
That's really cool. So with that partnership, is there like, I don't know how I want to describe this, but like a refugee aid Barbie? I have no clue. Might just cut that out.
It's a merch line, so it's
you said that. Okay.
Sweatshirts, hats, hoodies, jackets. I have not seen a refugee aid Barbie.
Frontline Barbie.
Mattel, if you're listening, we're asking for a frontline Barbie.
I mean, just add one more to the collection.
Come on, it's not hard.
Not my collection. I do not have Barbie. I do not have Barbies. I want to make that clear. I don't even know how to transition from that.
All right, let's get into more craziness with March Madness.
That was great. We talked about it a little bit at the top with Juju and that matchup between UConn and USC. I think you've just gotten a lot of matchups that you've wanted if you're a college women's basketball fan. I mean, really cool matchups in the Elite Eight to get an opportunity to go to the Final Four. Great game between LSU and UCLA that really came down to the last quarter. And just a fun one because it's like number 3 LSU with Flage, of course, and then UCLA, who's number 1 and has just been red hot. I think like, because I'm going to give you who I think is going to win now that we've got the Final Four teams. And I'm going off of my bracket because I'm 4 for 4 with my Final Four, which isn't a crazy thing to do. Like if you had looked at it earlier.
They're marquee matchups.
Yeah, for sure. But I am proud of myself
as you should be.
For that. Thank you. UCLA was definitely, of the 4 teams in the Final Four, in my opinion, the weakest. And if I really have to look at it again after having watched them these last couple weeks, they might be one of the stronger teams that are left. I mean, they look great. And then I think another thing to think of, and I should have hit this from the top, but your final four right now are UCLA, number 1 seed, South Carolina, number 1 seed, Texas, number 1 seed, and UConn as a number 2. So the only number 2 seed to advance to the final four.
I'm going to stop you right there. Who's playing who?
Great question. UConn will be matching up with UCLA. Texas will be matching up with South Carolina, who are actually 1-1 on the season right now. So Texas got them in the regular season. South Carolina beat them in the SEC tournament, and now they play again for a spot in the championship. So that'll be, I mean, like, you talk about the storylines in the Final Four right now is fantastic. The other one, too, let's say South Carolina wins. I'd be crushed. But let's say they win. The 3 other teams in the tournament are the only 3 teams in the last 24 months to beat South Carolina. The 3 teams left.
Wow.
In the last 24 months. 2 years. I'm talking like I have a kid.
24. And the baby is 24 months old.
And it's 24 months. Everybody who's left has a chance to beat this team, and South Carolina's looked beatable this season. I mean, they've gotten beat, but again, like, very strong team. And then I think the other thing to point out is when you look at all of these teams, and I'll kind of caveat saying South Carolina is so well-rounded, and they just have a lot of women on their team that can absolutely go. But I think every other team has 2 women that are just like head and shoulders above everybody else. And I think that's fun when you have these amazing duos. So I think you like look at UCLA and Kiki Rice, one of their point guards, and Lauren Betts. I mean, they're phenomenal. And in my opinion, that might be the best duo in college women's basketball right now. And then you look at Texas, and you have Madison Buecker and Rory Harmon. Rory coming back from an ACL tear last season, and now coming back and just, I mean, has played phenomenally. And then you look at UConn, and of course, Paige Buckets, and Azzi Fudd, who, I mean, last game she played in the Elite Eight, wasn't shooting the ball well, but down the stretch hit a couple massive threes that just stretched their lead against USC. So all in all, storylines are amazing. We're in for an amazing Final Four. It starts this Friday when you might be listening to this podcast. So you may or may not know who has won and advanced to the championship already. But end of the day, we're in for an exciting championship. I hope it's UT that takes the cake. My fine Longhorns. But Maggie, I don't know. Who do you think in our final minutes? What's your take? Who's winning?
Listen, I just think the South Carolina story of going for their 2nd straight national championship and 3rd title in 4 years would be insane. That's just such a good storyline, you know? And also for a coach like Dawn Staley, I think she's so well respected in her field. And this would just cement her legacy as something that's actually untouchable. And I mean, truthfully, I haven't watched as many games as I probably should, but just knowing what I have seen and what I've read, one, great team culture. You got to respect what she's doing there. And I think just seeing her work over so many years culminate in 2 back-to-back championships is something that, you know, you can't top that.
Yeah, no, Dawn Staley deserves it 100%. I will say, I talked all that talk about UT. I would actually love Paige Bueckers to kind of ride off into the sunset with a win. She's already announced her declaration for the WNBA draft coming up. But all of her teammates right now have been incredibly vocal about, we're doing this for Paige. We want to see Paige go out on top. What she's meant to the program, for UConn, for her teammates, how good of a player she's been. We talked about Juju at the top, being a Naismith Player of the Year as a sophomore. Paige Bueckers, only freshman to ever win the Naismith Basketball Player of the Year. To see her go out on top would be amazing. But we're running out of time. Let you close it.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Please follow the pod, rate us, comment, let us know what you want to hear. Thanks for listening, and we appreciate it. And we will see you next week. Bye.
Peace.